So in this segment, we're going to be talking about Labour's good policies on child healthcare.
Children.
Oops, started a bit early there. We're talking about getting more kids to brush their teeth in schools and things like that, and they're going to be called, quote, the nanny state, but that's all nonsense. So we're going to go through this and a couple other clips.
Children aged between 6 and 10 are experiencing tooth decay to the extent it is the #1 reason why they're being admitted to hospital. And this is totally avoidable. I think actually that teaching kids to brush their teeth is parents' responsibility, but in too many cases that's not happening. And I think we face a choice as a country. We can either sit back and say, well, it's parents' job, and if kids' teeth rot and if they end up in hospital, that's just too bad, despite the cost to their health, their teeth, and to the NHS. Or for actually a relatively small amount of money, we can put supervised toothbrushing in for kids aged between 3 and 5 to help keep their teeth clean and out of hospital.
Okay.
So this is objectively a good policy. This is objectively a good policy from Labour. Getting kids to brush their teeth is preventative for a lifetime. Really, it's something they'll have to learn to do every day. Things like that. It's objectively a good policy for not a lot of money. And I think Naga, I think her name is, on BBC Breakfast. Her questions are pretty embarrassing, to be honest with you. And I think there are easy answers to this, which we'll talk about after I've played this clip here.
One, you said for a small amount of money. What's the money? How much money, and what will it pay for?
Well, it's £3 million for supervised toothbrushing. That's part of a broader £1.6 billion package we're committing to the NHS to cut waiting lists.
So it's going to come out of the healthcare budget, not the education budget, by the sounds of this.
I just want to look at this £3 million. Does this £3 million pay for the time for a teacher to look at every 3 to 5 year olds' teeth and supervise their brushing?
Well, it's part of a broader programme we've got for primary school breakfast clubs. Every child in the country will be able to access primary school breakfast clubs.
This is different, no.
So that's part of the time, but I take the point you're making, but that's part of the time. Any teacher will tell you, in terms of the direct supervision, there'll be some kids who turn up who they know and can see are really confident.
I mean, they could do this. I mean, they could do this after supervised brush time, after the breakfast club. After they've eaten their breakfast, they could push brushing teeth. There is a decent solution for this. It wouldn't be too hard to find out. It might not be teachers running the breakfast club. It could be teaching assistants or someone else. I'm not sure. Who they could get to run it. But kind of worrying about costs. Like, I think what Labour need to do is say, we are already paying for this. Because of the fact that these kids are going to A&E and they're having to get their teeth extracted through, what is, in my opinion, tooth extraction like that, tooth removal, can be traumatic. It's not a case of how can we afford it, it's a case of how can we not afford it. And I think it's a dumb question from Naga. I don't think Wes Streeting's answer is the best here in response, because it was an obvious question she was going to ask, because people always are, people usually ask Labour how you're going to pay for it. And I think the answer they've got to give with some of these questions is, we're already paying for it with bad outcomes. We can pay for it with good outcomes, and that would be the best way to resolve it. So then you save the NHS money overall. Preventative care is important. And I think that's kind of one of the things Labour should be pushing, especially with a policy like this, how important preventative care is. Max did a cool video on this, so if you want to watch that, it'll be linked in the description. So I forgot about this clip originally until I saw Max's video. You've got this guy, John Sopel, arguing, asking the question, is Keir Starmer ready to fight a general election? Have Labour had an easy time in the media? And that's his job in the media, to ask difficult questions. So if the question is, have Labour been given an easy time? And if the answer is yes, then clearly big man here has not done his job properly. Neither has Goodall or Malice, which is a bit embarrassing. This from Wes Streeting, I think this is good. It's a very short clip talking about Labour Party's policies. I do want to see more of how they're going to achieve these things, and I hope they do flesh this out more towards the election.
Labour wants children born in Britain today to be part of the healthiest generation that ever lived, and that's why we're launching our Children's Health Action Plan, which I'm going to try and get to you in less than 60 seconds. We'll put dedicated mental health support in every primary and secondary school in the country to support children's well-being.
So this is good, so long as these aren't overstretched, mental health professionals that they don't have to go to 1 billion schools within a week. This is objectively a good policy. I'd back this one. I'd want to see kind of the logistics of it. How many are you going to have per school, or are you going to do it per child? So that could work better potentially. So I'd want to be interested in how this is going to work.
We'll introduce supervised toothbrushing for children aged between 3 and 5 to stop tooth decay, seeing so many kids ending up admitted to hospital.
That's we've gone over that. Good policy.
We'll ban the targeting of junk food to children that's fueling the childhood obesity crisis. We'll ban...
I think the best way to kind of combat obesity is to teach like kids how to cook and like healthier meals and things like that, and how they can do it. Because I can't lie, I think in school we got taught how to do a pasta bake, which is, I still make that from time to time. It's great, but not much else. So that could be another thing they could teach. So I don't think pushing these ban on ads on junk food is going to work, because it's the parents who allow them to have it. The kids might say, we want McDonald's or whatever, but it's the parents who decide whether they have it or not.
The irresponsible marketing of vapes that's addicting a generation of kids to nicotine.
I think with the vapes thing, I'm not sure. The more you ban things, sometimes the more people want them. So I don't know if that's going to work, but vapes objectively are not good. So anything that reduces their use, especially amongst kids, I'd support.
We'll end long waits in the NHS by providing 2 million more appointments a year to cut waiting lists. And to make sure that children start the day with hungry minds, not hungry bellies, we'll introduce nutritious breakfast clubs in every primary school in the country.
Hopefully there's Cocoa Pops on the menu, boys.
That's Labour's childhood health plan. That's the plan you've got to vote for at the next general election to make this the healthiest generation that ever lived.
So again, this is full of good policies, good ideas. I can respect this. I don't like Wes Streeting personally, but objectively, what he has put here is good. But we will talk about some of the other stuff in a bit. This from Carol Vorderman and Nick Ferrari. This was quite interesting as well, with them talking about the nanny state.
On the debate, Sir Keir Starmer admitting he's going to be accused of being part of the nanny state by suggesting, and quite rightly addressing children's emotional health. I think there'd be no one would complain about that.
Yeah.
Is it the role of a teacher or TA, teaching assistant?
Again, with the mental health stuff, just quickly, like, it's preventative care. Like, if you allow children to grow up in broken homes or, to experience traumatic situations without help, they grow up into broken adults, and broken adults are infinitely more harder to fix and can do a lot more damage to society.
Well, I go back to the 1960s, where it wasn't considered a nanny state. I went to a little Catholic school in a very poor town called Rhyl in North Wales. More than half the kids were on free school meals, big Catholic families. And we used to have, I don't know if you remember, the little third of a pint of milk for every child.
Thatcher, the milk snatcher.
Yes,
when Margaret Thatcher came in, she did away with that. That was to do with our health. We also had a school nurse. We also had Nitty Nora the knit nurse. Do you remember? Maybe you didn't in your school, Nick. But, half of us would come out with purple heads.
Yeah.
And it
What the... Oh, okay. Head lice.
was considered, and we'd have a cuddle from the dinner ladies and...
Less of that.
All of that. And it was considered... Particularly primary school teachers go into teaching because they love children.
Yes.
And they do want to care for all of aspects of their education. And it'll be interesting how this plays out. But I also, last weekend we covered on the show about the budget for dentistry is getting lower for NHS dentistry.
That's going to be really bad for the health of a lot of people, because when you get toothache, it can ruin a lot. Honestly, it is very painful. I think a lot of this is objectively good stuff here. What she's talking about there, anti-head lice stuff and things like that. Because again, it doesn't matter how much you look after your kid. If another kid in the school has head lice, your kid's probably going to get it. Let's be honest. So some of this stuff is preventative care, which various governments evidently got rid of, and this wasn't seen as the nanny state. It was just seen as things that were normal in schools. And if you want to look at how bad dentistry is in the UK, I mean, this clip from The Simpsons is pretty harrowing.
Listen to a house of lies.
You're right. I don't brush. I don't brush.
Let's look at a picture book. The big book of British smiles.
That's our king, by the way. Or that's the King of England.
Enough. That's enough.
We've been mocked for decades for this. I mean, it's got to stop at some point, and I think Labour will put us, if they push through these policies, these will hopefully help with that. But, you know, you've got guys like O'Brien, you know, absolutely going nuts over this, talking about how Starmer's tackling the nanny state and all of this stuff is like, it's good policy, not amazing policies, not the greatest policies of all time.
After 14 years of Tory rule, even the rise in life expectancy has stalled. Just
there's a bit here.
used would be neglect. And here is a guest from Tufton Street to tell you that the state shouldn't have any role whatsoever in any of this. Instead, it should all be the role of the parents. Just please don't ask me what happens if the parents aren't doing all the things that I insist they should be doing, because all I'll do is shout louder that the parents...
Which is facts. This is what Tufton Street are like, in my opinion anyways.
...should be doing it. In fact, I may even punch the desk with signals. They don't know how to help people with eating disorders. Well, the parents should be doing it. That's all they've got. It's pathetic. Usually people speaking from a position of immense privilege, of great wealth. The parents should be doing it. How can a parent treat an eating disorder, you flump? These people are awful. Absolutely. Oh, here's my friend from a think tank to tell you why we shouldn't have... It's absolutely incredible what they've done to this country. First politician of my lifetime who seems prepared to fight back. Keir Starmer.
I mean, it's kind of nonsense because, ironically, it was David Cameron who was called pushing the nanny state when he did the sugar tax ban. Or sorry, he did the sugar tax. You know, they accused him of being the the nanny state and all of this stuff. So, and he did get a lot of pushback from think tanks and other groups. So, you know, arguably it wasn't Starmer that did this. Isn't the first one who's pushing back in his lifetime. I think even Tony Blair got rid of things like turkey Twizzlers, I think. Things like that, you know, really unhealthy foods are on school dinner menus. So this argument of Starmer is the first one to fight back in his lifetime. His lifetime must be about 3 years or something then. Jesus. I really don't get why people are ready to get so excited over, you know, B-tier policies, the toothbrushing stuff. The mental health stuff, honestly, that's S-tier if it's done properly. That's genuinely really glorious stuff. But I do question how Labour are going to achieve that when Rachel Reeves has confirmed that, you know, Labour will continue austerity and they refuse to rule out further cuts to public spending. So, you know, if they're going to continue austerity, where is all this new money that Wes Streeting talked about, you know, in the healthcare budget? I don't get it. You know, talking about these policies is great, but the problem is, based on what Labour are saying on the whole, if they are pushing austerity, which I believe they are, you know, Reeves is, and at the end of the day, she's the one that's going to have to greenlight a lot of the money to go, you know, to the NHS and healthcare, and then to these schools in these breakfast clubs and things like that. You know, she's saying an incoming government doesn't choose its inheritance. I've been very clear, we are going to stick to our fiscal rules. She says, I don't want to see a return to austerity, but to be able to generate the money to sustainably invest in our public services, you've got to grow the economy. And obviously we know austerity doesn't work. So my fear is that despite what Wes Streeting is saying here in terms of good policies, will those actually happen? And will they happen properly? Because like I said, you can't have mental health professionals have to juggle, you know, a lot of kids to look after. It doesn't work. You know, mental health, in my opinion, requires a lot of, you know, one-to-one care, and so I just don't see it. You know, I don't get at what they're doing, but I guess we move on this one. But I am worried. You know, Labour can't push the austerity and fiscal responsibility angle, but also push this idea that they're going to invest a lot of money into public services because they don't match. They go against each other, and I think Wes Streeting might get pulled up on that at some point because he's going to push these policies in other interviews, and these are objectively good policies. But if they match that with, you know, Rachel Reeves talking about fiscal responsibility and all this stuff, the question is going to be where they're going to allocate the money from if it's not new money coming in, and that's something I fear. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.